Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Leinster Rugby Roundup show, the Leinster Line, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. Tonight's show is brought to you in conjunction with Rugby Academy Ireland, a pioneering international rugby academy helping aspiring players enhance their rugby and lifestyle skills through practical training and a bespoke curriculum, equipping students with an excellent education and qualifications needed to begin a career in professional rugby. Now, each month on a Roundup show, we look at all aspects of rugby within and affecting the Irish province of Leinster, including grassroots, provincial, European, mixed ability, visually impaired, wheelchair, women's schools, and much more. On this month's show, we'll be looking at a variety of topics. We'll be looking ahead to the European and Six Nations matches towards the end of the show. We'll have resident historian Gerlad WILLIAMSON on to discuss Longford Rugby Club. We'll be taking a quick look at the Leinster Academy and what's made it so successful. And most importantly, we'll have guest appearances from De La Salle Palmerstown, telling us all about the Vikings Mixed Ability Rugby team. I'm Conor BROOMFIELD. This is my co-host, Gerry SWEENEY, and you're very welcome to tonight's show.
It's been a while, but I'm coming out of my shell. And I never thought I would fall in love with someone just like you. And nobody here now, I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And nobody here now, but I hear you calling out, I hear you calling out for love. And I hear you calling.
Okay, before we go any further, I'd like to formally welcome Gerry SWEENEY, the man beside me here, to the Leinster Lion team. Gerry was on before as a guest, and he impressed the boss so much, he demanded he take a more central position. Gerry, you're very welcome. Nice to see you again. Do you want to tell everyone a bit about yourself and your involvement in rugby?
Thanks a million for that fantastic introduction, Conor, and thanks for welcoming me onto the team as well. It's fantastic, and a very happy new year to everybody watching. Best wishes for 2022. So my name is Gerry SWEENEY. I'm involved in Navan Rugby Club. I have been for a number of years. I'm the head coach of the Blue Dragons Inclusive Tag Rugby team, and I also coach the under-17 boys youth rugby team as well. Played a good bit of rugby with Navan over the years, mostly thirds rugby, I have to say. Was a second row. I ate my way into the front row, slimmed down into the second row, and I finished my career in the front row when I got fat again. But I'm a proud card-carrying member of the front row union. So thanks a million for having me on board. I'm delighted to be here.
And that's nothing to be ashamed of. I don't think I've ever played anywhere bar front row myself, apart from packing
it's
down.
The only place to play. There is no other position in a rugby pitch to be in other than the front row.
There was one time to try packing me down in number 8 for an attack and scrum, but it didn't work very well. Gerry, we've so many things, despite the absence of rugby played by Leinster over the last month. We've a number of exciting things to talk about, and some very interesting topics, and mostly positive. So let's get the bad news out of the way first. Dan Levy, is he the unluckiest man in rugby?
How
bad you've...
I think so. You know, you go back to his original injury, that big knee injury in 2019. What was an 18-month layoff, and then to come back and play merely a handful of games for Leinster again, and have another cartilage injury issue, and now this wrist injury issue as well. You know, the guy deserves a break. He really, really does. He's been very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, he really has. You know, he's a bit of a hero of mine. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a massive Dan fan. He's an extraordinary player in terms of his just the uncompromising nature of his play and his physicality. He was a massive player for us in the Grand Slam year in 2018, and I think it really showed when he picked up that injury and he was missing from the back row. Obviously a lot of top class players have come on since then, but I think in the World Cup year we really missed him. Well, what's fascinating for me about Dan is the way he's kind of ripped up every stereotype about your Dublin private school educated South Dublin player, like about being a bit soft, and he's the total opposite of all them stereotypes. He's like as hard as nails, and I always said if he was a Munster man, they'd be building statues of him. So he's one of many players from St. Michael's that have come through over the last few years, and that kind of leads us on to the next topic. We're going to discuss the Leinster Academy, the envy of every other academy in Europe, possibly, and further. I was listening to a New Zealand podcast there recently, and they were speaking about it in the Leinster Academy in glowing terms and asking what they're doing that's so special. Now we're just going to take a look at the players here. That's our year one players. Now a couple of things before I go on to the second point. I just wanted to say it's an absolutely fantastic to see so many players from a club background now coming through the system. I think it's needed. I think we can't rely on the school system, and it's great. First of all, the players are coming from diverse backgrounds, and the whole province is being represented, and it takes a lot of the pressure off the school system to produce so many players. You have Temi Lasisi there in year one. We just had up. He came from he came through Lansdowne Club. The other thing is striking. If we just look at if we can get year two for a second, we see Marcus Hannon and Jamie Osborne from Club Rugby from Clane and Naas, two fantastic prospects. And year three, you have Brian Deeney and Martin Maloney from Wexford and Athy, respectively, all club players. Now, as great as it is about the club system producing so many players, we just can't ignore the contribution of one particular school, can we, Gerry?
No,
that's St. Michael's.
No, definitely not. It's been exceptional and remarkable, really, the quality of talent that they've brought through the last couple of years and over the years as well, to be fair.
Yeah, it really has. Like, looking back through their history as a school and as a rugby school is fascinating. They're a relatively young school. I think they started off as a primary school in the 40s. They only had their first Leaving Cert students in the mid 70s, I think. And as a rugby playing school, while they were good, they didn't really arrive to the top table until the 21st century. Their first senior cup was in 2007. Their first test player was actually Noel Reid in 2014. But look at what's happened since then. It's quite remarkable. The number of players they've produced have gone on to make a career in professional rugby, mostly at Leinster, mostly going through the system. Let me run through a few names. Dan Levy, Ross Byrne. There's Dan himself, skinny legs. Isn't that
before all the chicken dinners?
He always had the aggression, but the body had to fill out. James Ryan, of course. Well, there he is now. Always tipped for the top, like he was a real standout player. And of course Harry Byrne, more recently. I make it currently 14 players, 14 senior players are playing with Leinster. They came out of St. Michael's College. Isn't that? And is it like
it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. It really, really is. There's obviously something in that chicken that Dan's been eating. That's for sure. You know,
and like, what's the answer? What do you think? Is it? You know, I think the lazy answer would be that St. Michael's have loads of money. They're a private school who charge $6.5 grand a year.
You could lever that against a lot of the private rugby schools. You know what I mean?
That's my point.
They train 5 days a week. You know, they've got top class coaches. There's a massive structure there. It's a semi-professional ethos. They want to get these guys through from A to Z and into a professional contract, an international test scene, wherever the case may be. Yeah, you could say that for a lot of them, but certainly whatever Michaels are doing, it's definitely
whatever they're doing. That's why we can only really touch on the subject today, because it really deserves an in-depth discussion. And I've been digging around like to see has anyone treated Michaels as a case study and examined it on all metrics and tried to ascertain like just how it's become so phenomenally successful. Again this year, like the year one academy players, you've Jack Boyle, Lee Barron, Chris Cosgrave, Mark Hernan, and Rob Russell. 5 out of 7 year one academy players. Joe the boss man, Joe Shepherd, described St. Michael's as a de facto sub academy for Leinster Rugby. I think that's a good way of putting it. If not every player is making test level, they are producing players almost ready for professional rugby when they leave school. Like one interesting stat I saw was for 6 consecutive years the captain of the Ireland under-20 team was an ex-Michael's player. I think they had to bring in a rule. It's like a certain pub being banned from the Black and White Pub of the Year competition years ago. They had to bring in a rule where Michaels weren't allowed
to keep the masses happy or rotated or something, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just remarkable, and that's something we I really want to go into more detail. A later opportunity. I think it nearly needs a show of its own.
I think you're right, and I think the big thing with it as well, you know, they're bringing through all these players, and ultimately the good ones, the guys who really try and make that ultimate hop up. You know, where are we going to put them? You know, if you look at the amount of players that Leinster have used in the last couple of seasons, it's been absolutely phenomenal. And I know you talked about the envy around the world in rugby of that particular setup. I mean, that's probably the slight downside to it, is that this good talent comes through, but doesn't necessarily always make the hop up to the Great Blue. You know, they might necessarily be moved on somewhere else, but I think thankfully we're trying to get a little bit better at that in this country, of keeping that talent here and nurturing it and make it grow. You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm a big believer myself that I'd rather see players kept in this country, kept on the island, than go overseas. I think that's the most important thing. Like all players are still eligible to play for Ireland, and we keep Irish rugby as strong as possible. So it's fascinating. We'll get back to St. Michael's soon.
Oh yeah, and compliments to the coaches as well. A great job, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, someone mentioned that. Sorry, someone came up on the screen. That's like obviously a lot of things are working well there at Michael's. The coaches, yeah, of course, goes without saying, they've done a phenomenal job. Bernard Jackman actually coached the Michael's Senior Cup winning team in 2012, and they also had Mark McDermott there for a year, Greg McWilliams. They've gone on to coach Russia and USA respectively. So there's no shortage of investment there. But what I'd really like to do is connect with people behind the scenes there, connect with people that have been through as players, as coaches, and hear their story. Because there's
get a little bit of an insight, absolutely.
Yeah, to get some insights. That's the only way you really know what's going on. But that's certainly one we'd like to return to later. Moving on, Gerry, we're going to talk to our resident historian, Gerlad WILLIAMSON. Gerald, great to see you again. You're welcome back.
Thank you very much, Conor. Very pleasure to be back, and good to see you too, Gerry, fellow clubman.
Gerry, happy New Year to you. How are you?
And same to you too. I would like to tell you a little bit about the a synopsis, as I would call it, on Longford Rugby Club. Officially, Longford was established in 1921. Unofficially, it was believed that rugby was played in Longford as far back as 1897, due to the fact that there were 2 army barracks based in Longford and in the town. Now, from the 1920s up to the 1960s, rugby was on a sort of a stop-go basis. People were moving backwards and forwards, etc. But then, when the Second World War came along, it had an effect on the club, and rugby had ceased being played in the club. But the club actually remained affiliated to the IRFU, simply in order to be able to secure international matchday tickets. It wasn't until 1967 that the club was reformed and rugby was started again. A number of the Longford people had actually been playing rugby, a little bit of rugby with Mullingar Rugby Club, and returned to the reformed Longford Club, among whom was a gentleman by the name of Derek Turner. More about him a little bit later. The first game was against Mullingar, as I played on the Sunday, the 3rd of September, 1967. And then in that first season, they played teams from Navan, Tullamore, Wilson's Hospital, Athy, Athlone, St Mary's College, Monkstown, and Eden Derry, to name a few clubs. Now, some of the club's history was used, some of the club highlights of the club was that in 1969, they purchased 10 acres of land from the Lord Longford estate to develop a pitch and a tennis club. And then further on, in 1976, more land was purchased for the development of a new clubhouse, which was opened a few years later. Longford was the first rugby club in the country, in the Republic of Ireland, to have what was known as a Prunty pitch, which is a grass-sand combination in the Republic. And that was laid down in 1981, and then they had another second pitch in 1983, 2 years later, another Prunty pitch. So it was an all-weather pitch, both pitches, and then around a number of years later, around 2000, they actually expanded again. They had a very good development team in the club, but they expanded again because of the growing population, rugby playing population. And they built a brand new clubhouse, which have developed into a well-known restaurant in it called the Sin Bin. You probably might have heard of it. And it has been proven very popular. Now, some of the achievements of the club are actually over the years. Actually, in 1975, they won the Midlands Seconds Cup in Leinster, and in 77, 78, they won the Thirds team Midlands League, and in 1983 they won the Leinster League, and in 1985 they won this Town's Seconds Cup for Leinster Town's Seconds Cup. And then in 2006, the club was promoted to Leinster League Division 2. Women's rugby actually was started in the club in 2007. Any well-known players or personalities attached to the club would be, in 1998, a Mel Dean was capped for the Ireland A team. He started his rugby in Longford. And then in 2001, there was a Dara Maguire was capped for the Ireland youths team. But it leads me on to one of the better known personalities actually from the club is a person by the name of Pat Fitzgerald. Now, Pat Fitzgerald has been a member of the Longford Club for actually 50 years this year. He started with Longford in 1972 and had played with Longford all his life, and then got involved in the club. He has been a club president in 1983-85, and he was president of the Irish Rugby Football Union, the IRFU, in 2013. And he was the first president from a junior club to be elected president of the IRFU, because most of the presidents of the IRFU have come from senior rugby clubs. And Pat I had a chat with him about this, and he said that he had served on the IRFU marketing and commercial and marketing committee for 10 years. And before that, he had been involved on the Leinster executive in marketing. So he must have a good grasp of how to do marketing and selling of things. And he actually he was asked to go forward for the presidency of the IRFU because nobody else would take it on at the time. And then that leads me on to today in Longford. It has a brand new state-of-the-art clubhouse, restaurant, a new strength and conditioning room, referees room, two what is known as Prunty grass all-weather pitches, and also now they have a new 3G pitch. And all the pitches are all floodlit. They're all floodlit pitches. And the men's senior team, they actually play in the Leinster Division 1B, and the women's team actually play in the Leinster Women's Division 3. Now, that leads me on to a thing about Mr. Boots Award. Now, a lot of people might not know what the Mr. Boots Award is. It was an award that was started up in 1981 to honour those who have excelled in their work and contribution to junior club rugby, especially junior club rugby in clubs around Ireland. And it was introduced after the retirement of Willie John McBride, who played one of his last games of rugby was in 1980. He played against a match against Irish Rugby Club. And after the game, he presented his boots to Irish Rugby Club as a memento of the occasion. The IRFU then decided, right, that's a great idea. Why not have a Mr. Boots Award? So the Mr. Boots Award goes to people from various clubs. It's been in existence now since 1981, to people who have done exceptional work within their clubs and their community. And Pat Fitzgerald of Longford, he was the Mr. Boots for 2011. And a second player, that was Pat Fitzgerald, that's in the picture there on the right. And the second person who had received an award for the Mr. Boots Award is Derek Turner. And Derek Turner that was in 2020. He received the award of Mr. Boots Award for his exceptional work at Longford Rugby Club. He's known actually as Mr. Rugby in Longford. And he has been there since going right back to the late 70s, etc., involved in the club's history. And they have been a very innovative club because they, I forgot to mention that the actual club colours are black and white. And they have a committee called the AIL Blacks, and they are past players, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes for the club in helping to promote the club and fundraise and things like that for the club. And so they have a get together every so often to help the current executive committee of the club in what they're progressing and trying to do. Longford has become one of the most progressive junior clubs actually in the country, with minis rugby right through to adult rugby, both boys and girls, etc. So that's what I would think.
Yes, it's quite an interesting one about Pat Fitzgerald becoming IRFU president, coming from a junior club.
The very first one.
The very first one, and you mentioned it. And you mentioned that no one else wanted the job at the time.
That's right. That's true. That is
because the country was in a recession, and there might have been.
I mean, like Pat actually, he has served now on the commercial and marketing committee of the IRFU for 10 years, and he was also a board member of the Aviva. Whether he still is or not, I'm not too sure. But he was one of the 3 nominees of the IRFU on the board membership of the Aviva Stadium as well.
Yeah.
And
no doubt he was well qualified for the job, and he's. I know Pat from the 4 provinces supporters group I'm involved in, and he's a great guy to talk rugby with, and a gentleman. The other point I was going to make there, Gerald, was about their facilities down in Longford Rugby Club. They really are quite impressive. I was looking at their website the other day. They must be one of the better equipped junior teams in the country. Would you think? I
would be inclined to agree with you there, but I think the key more than anything else is actually in the developing and the marketing. And Pat, I think he's a trustee of Longford Rugby Club. Himself and Derry Turner and a couple of other guys have been very astute in marketing the club and building up funds and being able to. They actually purchase land and have it sitting there for a bit and then develop the land until the funds build up. It's really and how you manage your finances in the club. And they have been instrumental in doing a lot of the good work that has taken place in Longford Rugby Club, with quite a number of other people behind them as well.
No doubt. And well done to everyone at Longford Rugby Club. And thank you, Gerald, for your history lesson. As always, it's always a pleasure to hear your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Gerry. Yeah, fantastic there from Gerry. Absolutely, as always, an insight into the clubs and the histories as well. Very, very well researched, and certainly, in terms of their development, to be able to put in 2 Prunty pitches and an Astro as well. I mean, there's some serious management going on there too. So compliments to them and well done.
I wonder, is there a sugar daddy behind them there?
There's always a sugar daddy.
Is it just prudent use of their finances? Well done to them anyway. There's fantastic work going on there.
No, absolutely. Okie dokie, we'll move along. So tell me, Conor, about our 2022 joint initiative program, our Rugby for Everyone. Reading the bits and pieces online about it, we're hearing about it as well through the grapevine. So what's it about? Who's involved, and why are we doing it? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, thanks, Gerry. The joint initiative program is basically a coming together of 3 groups who share a similar ethos, similar goals, and that's in a nutshell. It's about using our platforms and our groups in the most positive way we can. So the three groups are involved, or the ThreeBOD group here, the Four Provinces Rugby Supporters group that I run with four other guys from around the island, and Gerald's AIL Club and Rugby group. It's basically about using our resources. Both we share many of our admins across the groups. I'm doing a lot of research at the moment about inclusive rugby and helping promote inclusive rugby, and that's basically connecting to all the clubs around the country. Any team, whether it's mixed ability rugby, visually impaired, inclusive tag, wheelchair rugby, any of them are going to get as much support and promotion as we can, and any promotion will be cross-shared across Gerald's group, the AIL Club and Rugby group, and we have the ThreeBOD group behind us, who reach far bigger numbers through their page globally. They can reach out to over 20,000 people globally, and of course through promotion on live shows like tonight, where we can discuss topics that we're covering in the groups, such as the mixed ability rugby, which is I've been going into some detail lately. I did an introductory post about mixed ability rugby, which a lot of you might have seen, and at the moment I'm doing club profiles on every team around the island, and that's just building connections, building connections with the people behind the scenes, introducing them to the groups, and then trying to connect them with the wider rugby community. So that's how we build awareness. That's how we build connections, and hopefully we can help long term in the growth of the game. And we're in it long term. It's not like we're using the rugby for everyone slogan, and slogans are important, but the real work goes on behind the scenes. Doing your research, connecting with people, and reaching out, helping them reach out to a wider audience. The topic we're discussing here tonight, mixed ability rugby. I'd say over 95% of rugby supporters didn't know what mixed ability rugby was a couple of weeks ago. I think you can't go into my page now at the moment without knowing what mixed ability rugby, whether you want to or not. You're going to know everything about mixed ability rugby. And we're delighted to be able to have two guests on the show tonight, from De La Salle Palmerstown Club in Kiltiernan, and they're going to be talking about their involvement with the Vikings mixed ability team, and telling us all about what mixed ability rugby is and their role in its development. So any minute now we'll be joined. Here they are.
Hi.
Hello.
Guys, how are you?
Very good evening, Dave and Sabrina. How are we? Mariana.
Thanks, Mel, for having us.
Okay, underneath me there is Mariana Hayes, and beside her is Dave Hicks. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
You're very welcome, Dave.
Sorry?
You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Put your hearing aid in there, Dave, will you?
Thanks very much.
I'm an audiologist. I'll give you my number after the show.
Okay. First of all, Dave, you took up the reins of you got a mixed ability rugby off the ground a couple of years ago down in Kiltiernan, but your coaching experience goes way beyond that. I believe you've been involved with LSL for over 30 years. So do you just want to give us a backdrop to yourself and your coaching career, and how that developed into inclusive tag and then on to mixed ability rugby?
Right, okay. Well, basically I started with my eldest son Barry when about 30 odd years ago. And I met a friend of mine, I met a fellow called Donald Kelly who was up in the rugby club, and he said, why don't you bring Barry up someday? And he was an under 7 or under 8s at the time, and I brought him up, and that's how it started. And then when my next son came along, James, I started him then at the under 7s or under 8s, and we went up to about under 12s, under 13s, and then I came back down to, it was at that time the under 7s, and I was the, if you like, the link to new people coming in. They'd come in, they'd start with me, and then I'd bring a couple of the dads or moms on to coach the kids, and then they'd run on up through the under 8s, under 9s, and under 10s. But I'd be the anchor. And then we started an under 16, and currently I'm the senior coach now for the Daisy Pickers, which is an under 5s team. And under 5s are great because the mammies are better looking, but some of the kids are only 2.5. they're still in nappies, you know. You know the way you go on to a rugby team and you see a broken nose and a cauliflower ear, and that's just the mammies who say, oh, dude, I'm on the wrong pitch here. So we started off then, and so I stay at the Daisy Pickers now, and I'd have, on a good Sunday now, I could have 40 under 5s, and it's like herding chickens, but it's great fun and they enjoy it. And then from that, then you introduce the parents to coaching, and then, you know, like at the end of every match, you have at the end of every training session, we have a match against the parents. So the parents stand on the pitch, they can't move their legs, but they pass the ball around, and the kids run around after the ball, and you can see there who's interested and who's not. If you could see a guy standing with his cup of coffee at the back of the pitch and his arms folded, he's never going to be interested in coaching. But the guy who's flicking the ball across thinks he's Johnny Sexton. He's the guy that could say, listen, you come on and give me a hand, and then next year you just move them on up through the ranks. So about 10 years ago then, Norman O'Leary from Sea Point came up to the rugby club one Sunday morning. And I'd known Norman from sort of seeing him at various different matches because his kids played rugby at the same time as mine. And he came into the bar and I was there, oh, hey, Norman, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. He says, I want to set up a special needs team. Do you think DLSL would be interested? So I said, I don't know, I'm sure they would. Like, you know, it sounds like a good idea. I'll introduce you to the president of the club and introduce him to the president. The president thought it was a good idea and said, God, that's a great idea, Dave. Now, good luck with that, you know. That's how I started. And I had no experience with players with special needs. So I rang a friend of mine who plays with Barnhall, of our coaches in Barnhall, James Jones, who works with Chief Account. And I told James what I wanted to do, and he's a real rugby head. No problem, Dave, no problem, Dave. I sorted it out. I'll have 10 players up there next Sunday. And true to his word, he had 10 players up on the pitch. He came up himself. We had a bit of a run around. We didn't know what we were doing. Then the second week, it improved. And now we'd have about 24 registered registered special needs players, and they would play tag rugby, non-contact, and we play all sorts of games. Like, you know, it's really the opportunity for them to meet other players is very important, and obviously the fitness as well. But it's fun, and they love going away to play other matches. So, for instance, now we were down in Balbriggan recently, and the highlight of the trip going away was where we're going to get food. Now, unfortunately, because of COVID, we couldn't have the food, but the thought was there. But that's what they're interested in. They're interested in the social side of it as well. So then about 3 years ago, I got a message up at the rugby club that was a fellow called Lee Marr looking for me from Sunderswell about Mixed Ability Rugby. And while I knew a little bit about Mixed Ability Rugby, I didn't think it was a great idea. So, but
sorry there, Dave.
Yeah.
Just a quick one, Dave, before we go any further. Could you explain to people, not quite in the know, just the differences between mixed ability rugby and inclusive tag, and just tell us what mixed ability is about and who it caters for.
Mixed ability is players who have special needs and able-bodied players. So typically, you could have a coach, say, like on our team, for instance, at the moment, a lot of our players are coaches who have been players over the years, still want to be involved and come up on a Monday night for a training session and enjoy the session. But nobody wants to hurt anybody. Everybody wants to go to work the next day. So you have uncontested scrums, you have uncontested lineouts, you have rucks and mauls, the same as you would on any other pitch. But you know, if you've got a guy, Conor, the same size as yourself, he's not going to take out a player that perhaps has Down syndrome or something like that and put him into the middle of next week. There are procedures. You know, if a guy is not able to be tackled, he can go to ground, present the ball, and not be tackled. But anybody that's playing the game has to understand that. And if you get a guy who's, you know, all rough and tumble, you just send him off. Say, here, listen, this isn't where we're at. But we haven't come across a situation yet where somebody came onto the pitch that wanted to harm anybody else on the pitch. It's, you know, it's a fun game. And what it does for the kids is, and the players, and both, you know, able-bodied players and players who have a disability, it just brings them together as a team. And that's what's important. Their social inclusion is what's important. And they enjoy the game, they enjoy the fun, they enjoy the fitness, and it works from there, you know. But when I got the phone call, I said to the guy behind the bar, Gerry at the time, I said, Gerry, I said, there's no way we're going to have a mixed ability team. Like, it doesn't make sense. So when I rang Liam Mark to tell him that I wasn't going down, it turned out that I knew Liam from a previous life when we were both in the tourism business together. And when I heard his voice, he said, are you Liam from Stella, from Sheila's? Yeah, oh, jeez, Dave, how's it going? So then, because of who he was, I said we'd go down and have a look. And myself and James Jones from Barnhall drove down to Cork one Friday evening for their training session. And all the way down, we said, this is not going to work, and these are the reasons why. And all the way back, we said, God, that was fantastic. It was really great. Couldn't believe it. And how it just all gelled together. And then we started, you know, we got approval then from the IRFU to set up a trial team in Dublin. I think we're the only one team in Dublin. There's lads in the north doing it for ages. Sunday Well have been really trailblazers. They've been doing it for about 6 or 7 years. And we've had our own little festival in Dublin where we brought Ballincollig, Sundays Well, Malone, ourselves, all got together. And when we had that first session in Dublin, we were sort of scratching around trying to get players to come in. And we went to some of the other players in the club and said, listen, will you join us for the day? And then there was various different matches through the day. And the lads were saying, like, guys who played rugby all their lives, you know, would now be in their 40s, come over to me and said, Dave, that was the best rugby game I've ever been involved in. It's the most fun, the most enjoyable, and it's just great. There was a real rugby atmosphere to it, without it being stupid. Where, you know, you guys, like, you know, trying to kill one another. So have I said enough?
That's brilliant, Dave. Just to take you up on something you said there, you had concerns when you were starting mixed ability rugby about how this would work, and you probably had some safety concerns. To deal with something a number of people have asked me, I'm going to put it to you that some parents may be naturally skeptical about their son playing mixed ability rugby if they have additional needs. What's your message to these parents, and how would you address this skepticism?
Firstly, Conor, it's men and women play rugby with us. I think there's our photograph there now. I can't see any of the players on it. There'll be any girls on it there at the moment. But it is mixed ability, and it's male and female. And like Paul O'Connell's not going to come out and run over one of their players. It's not that type of rugby. You need to see it to understand it. Unfortunately, both special needs rugby and mixed ability rugby, people who don't know anything about the game don't have the opportunity to even think about it, to understand it. When they hear the name, the game, oh, rugby, no, it doesn't suit my child. They need to give it a chance and have a look at it. A lot of the people who are in the rugby fraternity, if you like, who would go to Lansdowne on the odd occasion, there's at the mini section at the half time, you might see a mixed ability team or special needs teams playing rugby. And that does promote the game among the clubs, and you get people coming back to us then and saying, oh, we thought that was great. But there are about 33 clubs, I think, in the Leinster area now with special needs teams. And I'm at the moment, I think there's only one mixed ability team in Dublin. But I hope that will grow.
Yeah.
But not there isn't enough players for every club to have a mixed ability team. But every club can support mixed ability by perhaps hosting a bit of a festival someday, inviting the 2 or 3 teams together to have a bit of a blitz on their pitch and showcase it within their own club. That people can do that if they want to. I think that's very possible.
Absolutely, and I think it'll only grow from now. We'll talk about IMARCH, the Mixed Ability Rugby World Cup, a little later. But if we could bring you in there, Mariana, you're an administrator. Your husband is coach of the Vikings team. What do you see as the main benefits of playing mixed ability rugby for the people involved, both in terms of fitness and in terms of social development?
In terms of fitness, it's probably great that you see the guys that are back out on the pitch that probably weren't doing it anymore. Like Dave said, we had coaches there, we had people who kind of hung up their boots and said, right, I'm just not going to do this anymore. It's just too much. I can't commit to the leagues, the matches. And when they came back to this, which was kind of more like laid back rugby, they enjoyed themselves. So same with the special needs, the guys that came from the Eagles, they wanted that bit more. They wanted to go that bit much further, than just doing the tag rugby. And they got involved in it and they love it. Like they're flying, they're really, really good. With the social aspect, like you just can't beat it really. Like the camaraderie with the team is incredible. And when you see them all just train or play, like you just can't help but smile because they just gel so well, and they all rip the piss out of each other like any other team would, no matter what. Like it's great. I really I couldn't promote it enough, like the work that Dave has done to bring this up to our club is just incredible. Like to have this available at our club is incredible, and the work that everybody does is incredible. Like, so if everyone else outside could see this, I think it would be more available in other clubs. And like Dave said, we need other clubs to get involved together because we don't have enough people around for every club to have a mixed ability team. We need to get together and have bits from everywhere and just have this one whole of the mixed ability in Dublin. Like it will work.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point. Just to touch on that, Conor, I always likened the inclusive tag rugby, disability tag rugby that we do in Navan as being like a big Spanish onion. Like there's so many layers to it, and you just peel it back, and there's absolutely something for everybody. Keep on peeling. There's so many levels to it. It's so rewarding and so fulfilling for everyone involved. Like kudos to you as well. It's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, definitely, it is. Like it is very rewarding to watch, and to give that involvement for everybody, especially,
Yeah. It's been treated as equals, though. It must be a massive thing for people with special needs. They're playing on the same level, and then be treated as equals. That ethos, like that team ethos that it builds, like it obviously goes past your mixed ability team. Looking at your club structures and how it involves everyone. Mariana, tell us a bit about your family's involvement. This might take a while, I think. You're involved in min level at coaching as a parent of players. Tell us your story there.
Like came up to the club over 10 years ago. My eldest wanted to play rugby, so I went up with him. He then decided, as any teenager would, to I'm not bothered anymore and left. But I wanted to remain in the club. I love the club. I actually fell in love with LSL. There was no ladies team at the time. 2013, 14, there was kind of whispers of a ladies team coming up, and it did eventually happen, and I jumped at it. So I played with them for, I think, 2 seasons that we'd done. At the time, then I managed to rope Ken into coming up around that time as well. So he played for the Day Fours, I think it was at the time. And then the ladies were gone at that stage. I then had a baby, David. And when he was 2, we decided to bring him up to Dave. And of course, like Dave said, when the mammies and daddies come up, he managed to rope him into coaching. That happened. I ended up then coaching with him. So David's now in the under 6s, which I've moved up alongside. So I coach them too. Ken, he plays for now the Metros, so the J3s. He also coaches the under 15s and he does the Mixed Ability Rugby as well. And then I play for the ladies too. So that's kind of where we are in the club. A bit of everywhere, you know, but it's a great club to be part of and I don't see myself anywhere else, you know, the way. So to be involved in it, it's just an honour.
Yeah. I think everyone I've talked to now from De La Salle is speaking about your club with such pride. And so hats off to you there. It's amazing work you're doing.
Thank you.
And obviously, hopefully, a family that plays rugby together stays together. Obviously, so well done to all your clan. If we could bring you back in there, Dave. You mentioned the Sunday as well, and Liam Turner. I don't think we can have a conversation about mixed ability rugby without mentioning the influence of Alan Crockwell and what he's done for the game. Can you tell me a little bit about him and what he's done with mixed ability rugby on the island?
Well, I think both Alan and Liam Marr, like they drove mixed ability rugby when it wasn't that popular thing to be doing within the Irish rugby fraternity. And the IRFU, in fairness to them, had their reservations, and I absolutely understand that. And they were very, very conscious of the potential problems that it could bring to the players and where they're being put in danger and all the rest of it. But really, it's when you went and researched it, the lads in England have been doing it for years. Wales have been doing it for years. Scotland have been doing it for years. And both Alan and Liam saw the potential. Now, Alan is a professional within the area of special needs. That's his day job, and he could understand the importance of it probably before anybody else. Of bringing the inclusiveness of it into his, if you like, clients. So, you know, like you talk about social capital. You know, each of us that are involved in a rugby club might know, off the top of my head, I might know 1,000 people. You might know 2,000 people. But people know thousands of people. But if you have special needs, your social capital is actually limited to how far your parents are prepared to drive you. You know, maybe your local school, but there's maybe a half a dozen, maybe there's 20 people in your class. So typically somebody with special needs, their social capital might be only 100. But they come to a rugby club, it could go from 100 to 200. And certainly there's guys in our club who have special needs who would be known by everybody in the club. They might not necessarily know everybody in the club, but everybody in the club would know them. And when you bring in, we would have a game on a Sunday, a training session on a Sunday. We would invite other teams within the club to come and play against us occasionally. And somebody who has never been involved or never met or never came across somebody with special needs, it can be a bit daunting. But it's not daunting for players up at De La Salle anymore because they see the lads there every Sunday morning training. They come and train with us. They get involved. It's great. It's great not only for the players with special needs. It's great for the players who don't have special needs because it broadens their horizons as well, and they're not as self-conscious being around people with special needs. So they understand them and they just treat them as normal. You know, as Mariana said, a bit of slagging going on, and that's what it's all about. You know, it's a bit of fun. There's no issues. Like our Eagles, which is going 10 years, we have never lost a game. Now we've never won a game, but that's incidental. And the Vikings, Now, there's a bit more competition in the Vikings. You can lose a game in the Vikings, but nobody loses by 10 tries. You know, like the referee could get a try for you if things are bad, you know. So it's very important for everybody involved. It's as important for the players with special needs as it is for the players without special needs. You all right there, Conor?
All good. Just fixing a technical issue. No, that my main taking from that there, Dave, is that a couple of things. Firstly, you mentioned that it's beneficial for people without special needs as it is for people with special needs. So I think there might be a perception among some people that the more able-bodied people are just there as facilitators, which isn't the case, is it? And
no. Yeah, no. If you got, you know, somebody with 20 years experience and he's standing beside somebody who has Down syndrome, you know, your man will say, you know, you're stand back a bit, stand by, you know, run with the ball, don't run with the ball, you know, go to ground. Like there would be a sort of an element of coaching. Now, the reason you get that is because a lot of our players are actually coaches themselves, and they're experienced players. So you wouldn't want somebody to be offside, so you keep them on side. But sure, listen, you see that in the under 18s in ordinary matches, people are standing offside. So it just there is an element of support, but that's all it is. It's, you know, everybody's on the team. We're here to win, we're here to play, and we're here to enjoy ourselves.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
No, it's good, and it is mixed. Like you get girls playing on the teams as well with our lads, and that's not a problem either.
And tell me this: I know we're looking ahead to June. I think it is the IMART, the International Mixed Ability Rugby Tournament, that's coming along. I know it's been delayed because of the pandemic. It's great that it's finally going to happen. You want to just tell us a little bit about that as well?
Well, that's the World Cup of Mixed Ability Rugby, and it is coming up in Cork now. We're hoping to have a team like Alan and myself. We're talking about it there today, but I think there are 80 matches over the 3 days of the 4 days, and it's a showcase for mixed ability rugby for the world. And there's teams coming from all over the place, all over the world, and fair dues to the lads in Cork. They have really put their backs into this, and unfortunately, it didn't happen last year, and they had to postpone it. And please God, it'll go ahead this year. But definitely, we will have a presence there if we don't have a full team. It's a week, and I know some of the lads that have day jobs can't afford to take a week off to go and play rugby. But you know, I'd say we will get down for some part of the week and try and get as involved as possible. But certainly, if the wife lets me, I should be down there for the week.
Absolutely fantastic. We're really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that's about all we have time for, guys, unless you have any more questions, Gerry, or is there anything you want to add, Dave or Mariana?
No, just thanks Mail for having us and getting the word out, you know.
And if there's any international players or ex-international players who'd like to be ambassadors for the Vikings, we'd love to talk to them. Like there are,
that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
That's an absolutely brilliant idea. We'll put the word out tomorrow, and
it makes such a difference to the players themselves when they have, you know.
Absolutely, to have one of their heroes there. That's brilliant. I see Rory Best is involved with the Panthers, in inclusive tag team, and he's connected to the Barbarians up there as well, the Banbridge Barbarians. So that's a brilliant idea, and hopefully players will get on board with every inclusive team on the island. So we definitely be 100% behind that. Guys, it's been absolutely fantastic chatting to both of you individually and having you on the show. Going forward, through our groups, through my group and through the AIL group, we'll give you every support we can, both in keeping up to date with everything that's going on, your matches, and preparing for the big tournament in June. Any way we can to help awareness and grow the rugby community, we're behind you. Through the ThreeBOD group, we hope to have you on again later in the year. And there won't be a rugby supporter in Ireland that won't know about Mixed Ability Rugby and what it's about if we're doing our job properly. Mariana, you're a legend.
Thank you, Andy.
Do you agree?
Of course,
You agree, Dave?
Absolutely.
I think Dave is the legend here now. He's definitely the man, you know. It wouldn't be possible without him. Like, I don't think he realizes how much he is, like, means to the club. Like,
she's
really.
only saying that because I'm good looking. Don't
Wow, just stop. Ken can hear you.
No, I'd say the IRFU inclusion officer was ringing your praises there as well. Like I was looking up information on you, Dave, and I got to quote that you're a truly outstanding individual.
In fairness to the IRFU, they have given us great support. You know, like Dave McKay is the new inclusion officer. Anne-Marie Hughes has given us great support. Stephen Gore is fantastic. Jonathan Sharkey, they're all fantastic in Leinster as well. Like, they've given us huge support, and that's very much appreciated. And often, you know, it sort of happens, and you wonder, like, you know, do they realise the importance of what they're doing for us? And, you know, I hope they do, and it is very important because they've built it up from 3 clubs starting off, Greystone, Seapoint, and ourselves, to now having 33 clubs. There's young David, called after me, I hope.
You say hi? So stay.
Okey-dokey.
Right.
Okay, guys, it's been absolutely.
He's the image of me, isn't it?
No, stop saying that. You'll have to censor you, Dave.
Thanks a million, guys. Thanks a million.
If you're like this on your first appearance, God knows what you'll be talking about when you get to know us better.
Could be show within a show.
Thank you so much, guys.
Guys,
Welcome. We'll talk
it's
soon.
been brilliant. Thank you. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
Okey-dokey. Fantastic.
Look forward to having them on again. That Dave guy sounds like a character.
Absolutely. I can't believe how quickly time has gone.
Oh, God.
Ladies and gents, this is the Leinster Line, our monthly Leinster Rugby Roundup show, brought to you in conjunction with Rugby Academy Ireland, a pioneering international rugby academy that helps aspiring players enhance their rugby and lifestyle skills through practical training and a bespoke curriculum, equipping students with an excellent education and the qualifications needed to begin a career in professional rugby. And I'm Gerry Sweeney, and I'm going to go back to my co-host Conor BROOMFIELD, and before we're finished, we're going to have a quick chat about the EPCR games that are coming up. We've got Leinster and Montpellier on Saturday with a 1 p.m. kickoff, and the following week on the 22nd, who we got then?
Bath.
22nd. Bath. Okay.
Bath.
All right. So let's
Yeah,
talk
we're
about
away
Leinster
to
and
Bath.
Montpellier. Let's see where we're at.
Home to Montpellier, away to Bath. How do you see them going, Gerry?
Hard to say. Leinster at home to a French team. We don't have to go to France. That's probably one advantage. A couple of the boys haven't played much rugby, which is another thing too. So that's something that we could probably talk all night about. Maybe we won't. But yeah, we will see. Yeah, I don't know. You'd like to think that Leinster are strong enough to do it. They have the depth in the squad.
Yeah.
I'd say Leinster. How about you?
Yeah. I'm thinking two wins here. I think it has to be 2 wins anyway. But home Leinster against anyone, I'd always back them. Montpellier have had their COVID issues as well, and then the following week, Bath won their first match was it their first match of the year, or first match since the start of their season. They bet Worcester, straight past Worcester, so they're in reg order. And
it was pretty much one-way traffic the last time we played them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a messy match. They got very scrappy. Like Leinster had it wrapped up very quickly. Yeah. Speaking of wrapping up, I think it's time we did something similar, because Nathan will start abusing us through the chat. Thank you everyone who's viewed tonight's show. Huge thanks to Dave and Mariana who came on. Thanks to Nathan for directing and producing the show tonight. And we can't go anywhere, of course, without mentioning a special project that the ThreeBOD group is involved with at the moment, supporting a school in the UK called Tettenhall Wood School. The link is going to come up now for something you can do to help them. They're a school who specialises in supporting autistic children, and they're up for a Global Podcast Award. They've had some global rugby sporting and inspirational leaders on their podcast. They're one of our organisations in a joint initiative programme with the ThreeBOD group, and we'll be featuring a lot more of them. For now, they need our support as they're in the last 8 of the Global Sports Podcast Award. So go to that link that's coming across your screen there. It'll take 30 seconds to register. You can register again on another email and another and so on if you really want to help them, and give them your vote. And more importantly, listen to your podcast. They're absolutely brilliant. They've had sports people across various fields. A couple of rugby ones I listened to was Will Greenwood, and Clive Woodward's one is about to drop in the next few days. So they're top class, these guys. Okay, really running out of time. Thanks again to Rugby Academy Ireland for supporting our show tonight, and continued support with the ThreeBOD group. We'll see everyone next month. Go to our social media platforms on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Like, follow, and share, please. Spread the word. Gerry, thanks as always for your company. It's been a pleasure to co-host the show with you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck to all your guys down in Avon, all your Blue Dragons. Hope you're back on the pitch soon.
Back out on Sunday.
Oh, great stuff. Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you all, guys, and good night from everyone on the Leinster Line show.